This motherfucker from Canada. Shit, what they doing in Canada? I don't know.
I'm Mike Malott. Tune into the Donttap podcast.
The champ, John Jones.
Follow me on Twitter.
Hey, I'm UFC President Dana White, and you're in the ring with Callum McGregor.
They're staring at me. See it?
Okay, UFC 286 in the books. Some lessons learned. Some amazing fights. Some spots maybe missed, but all in all, I was pretty happy with how we came out. I'm going to get you to highlight that in all the spots based on the ones that we had put out right at the end of the week. But I mean, I think the couple things that we want to look at first is that I'm going to say it, and I've been pushing it on social media, and I look like a simp for the guy, but I don't give a fuck. It's what's right. Because I backed Leon Edwards so bad when everybody was saying, fuck Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards, he doesn't get the title shot. And it's like, no, man, the guy's put together enough of a resume. He deserves the title shot. That's it. There's nothing else about it. And everybody was like, no. And now he's proven he just beat the GOAT, the guy that was going to dethrone GSP, his best welterweight of all time, dethrones him, and then actually goes in and runs a perfect game plan and picks him apart in this fight. The dogs were barking, man. And I think, what was the quote again? You seem to like a lot of these dogs on this card more than I do, or something along those lines, I think you said last week. But yeah. I think it is a simple thing. Like, even in a striker's battle, when you have a guy like Fiziev, and we'll just jump into that one, and Justin Gaethje, when you have two guys that strike, oh man, it could be 50-50 at points. But I know what you were saying with the level, and I was on the Fiziev side too. But Gaethje presented that power, and we learned one thing about Justin Gaethje. What did you learn about Justin Gaethje?
Motherfucker's tough as nails, man. Like, it's just one of these guys that, like, I thought that it'd be more technical, but honestly, it came down to what I said. I said, if Fiziev is willing to break strategy and engage in a firefight, then he's set to fail in this fight. And I think you saw that in the third, because it was fairly even going into the third round. But, live lines were still sitting at Fiziev about minus 250. But then for some reason, Fiziev decided he wanted to give Justin Gaethje the fight he wanted. And to me, all technicality went out the window. And that's just where Justin Gaethje shines. So,
yeah, he was still throwing his combinations, but he was just not defensively sound at all. And the one thing that we learned about Justin Gaethje is, because he did actually run some pretty decent boxing at points in that fight, is he plays to the level of his opponent.
And he finally got his takedown.
But yeah, we got the takedown too. But he plays to the level of his opponent. Against a Chandler who wants to put on this crazy ass show, he does it for you. And yeah, sure, he does it in every one of his fights. But in this fight, he was a little bit more calculated, a little bit more sound at points. And then that plus money just looks so good. But to go over our spots quickly, and I know that if you took a look at the spots right now, I want you just to highlight our wins, our losses, and where they went.
Yeah, so we had a Americani Shore fight ends in sub at plus 160. That hit. We had Ludwig Klein, Leroy Duncan, and Laurent Murphy plus 236. That hits with a push, so probably around plus 150.
That was a sweaty one.
Morales lost. That was a play I was fairly confident in, but I didn't really expect Duncan to come out and wrestle. He hadn't showed too much of it in his previous fight, so bad bounce on my way. But
I didn't really step up like I wanted to for the Scotsman. I should have just been a fan on that and called it a homer play. But let's go Scotland, fucking right.
Roman Dolidze lost a fight, and I don't understand how people score that fight for Dolidze. I'm not gonna lie. I understand, like, there's two different sides of the coin on this one. There's either people like me who are like 30-27 Vittori, easy. And then there's people like, man, Dolidze beat the shit out of him. So, like, I feel like I need to go back and watch this
I'm
fight.
in the middle, actually. I'm not one of either of those people. I think that although I was on the Dolidze side of things, I could see how if it went to Dolidze, I could see how they could say, okay, the power and the moments and whatever. I could see it sort of happening. But I was looking at the clean shots from Vittori. He was landing those shots down the middle. He was landing them pretty consistently. And he does have power in his shots. I think the judges maybe even look at that. Like, every one of his punches that he throws, although they're cleaner and more technical, I can't believe I'm saying that about Vittori, but there's more power in them. So I think that he did a good job in that fight. And I couldn't argue with the decision on that. I mean, I would have been happy if Dolidze won, and I wouldn't have been surprised either way. So, but yeah, definitely cleaner shots. And he just needs to do more, man. A couple more moments, I think, for Dolidze, and we have a different conversation, but he just didn't have them. He didn't close the distance enough and get elbows on him, and that's what he had to do. he had to clinch up, get some elbows on him, and then break off. And I'm a couch potato. He's the pro. Hopefully, we see him come back. But yeah, next spot.
We also had Gordon sub, which, a couple more minutes you would have got it, but those liver shots are a little too much. And then yeah, man, the money line play with Laurel Murphy minus 180. That was a greasy one, man. That was a good fight, but I think this is a fight that we learned a lot from Laurel Murphy. Like, I think this is good for his overall career. Gabriel Santos is a guy, I said, that if this was an actual 3-round fight that he had a full training camp for, I would potentially favor him in this fight because it's a guy who's coming in off the LFA. A lot of guys, I have a high respect for, and a lot of people were doubting him, man, because that Laurel Murphy fight was kind of moving up in that trending direction. And I think this is good for both fighters. And I think it was a sharp spot on our side, but that fight looked a little bit closer to a pick.
Yeah, it was a sweaty fight. And I ought to be honest, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that we got real lucky with that parlay. That parlay is we get the push that we were gonna probably lose. And then we get, it was a sketchy one. And in retrospect, we were just hunting more value on picks that we really thought that we had the edge on. But it played out, right? So hey, I'll take it.
And before we get off this, for the love of God, do not let me parlay women's MMA. I had like the most beautiful 6-leg parlay riding on Casey O'Neill. Like, it was wonderful. Everything else hit without an ease. And it all came down to women's MMA. Again.
You know what? I think we almost said it as we broke down that fight. I think that, Casey, with the coming off of the surgery, that's a huge thing. And I think that we maybe should have left that as a stay off. But it is what it is. We move forward, and that's what we do. So we move forward. Bilal Muhammad should be getting the title shot. That's all I'm saying. I was going off on a tangent, and I don't know where it went. But the guy
Bilal Muhammad
is
does not
where
deserve
Leon
a title
Edwards
shot.
literally was a couple years ago. Bilal Muhammad should be getting this shot right now. And if not him, definitely not Kobe. I don't get it. I'm not hating on him. I just don't get how a guy can revolving door. And like I said, about a bunch of memes online because I was so pissed about it. But I don't get how he can just keep getting the shot. What you lose, go down, beat a guy, come back up. Doesn't matter who the guy is, or the level of the guy you beat. Bullshit, right?
But now, if you're Leon, because I'll be honest, Bilal isn't getting a title shot because nobody in the fucking world wants to see that fight. But if you're
people actually start to. There's starting to be a story about it now.
But if you're Leon, you got 3 fights, right? You got Colby, you got Hazmat, and you got Shavkat.
Hazmat? I love how you say Hazmat.
Like, wouldn't you just be? He's like, I'm not going to take that fight. I'm like, dude, the 2 guys behind you are going to kill you. This is the only fight you have a chance at winning. Like, if I were him, I'd be signing on the dotted line right away.
Well, see, Leon has a story with both guys, with Bilal with the eye poke, and he has a story with the 3-piece and a soda. And even Bilal said if he took Masvidal, he would be pissed, but he would sort of get it because there's a story there. There's an assault in the back end. And then there's, so it's where he can go make the money as champ. Because why did he be that underdog the whole time and be overlooked to become champ, to just say, hey, yeah, I'll fight this guy, maybe not make as much money if the pay-per-view doesn't draw as much. So yeah, I get it. And I think that if you went Masvidal and then said to Bilal, sit on the side, I'll give you the next shot. I just think he deserves it, in my opinion, because he's went in and did twice what everybody asked him to do. So when he's been overlooked a couple times. It's not that I'm trying to jump on his jock. It's just, I just think it's more about jumping on the idea of what's right. I just think that's there. No one's Conor McGregor. Unless you're fucking Conor McGregor, bro, he ain't cutting the line. Sorry. Anyways, we'll jump into UFC Fight Night. We got what a hell of a main event. We have Sandhagen. We have Vera. I'm very interested to see what your take is on this one, because I don't know if we're going to be on the same side of this one. We have Marlon Chito Vera coming in at 22-7-1. Best bet stamp bet is plus 140 at BWin. Corey Sandhagen 15-4-0, minus 161 favorites. Best can be found. Best bet stamp bet at CoolBet. I'm starting to formulate where I'm going to go with this one. I've been really going back and forth on how this fight could play out. I think this is one of those fights that they fought a bunch of times. But like I said, you can almost cut it down the middle, if not one way or the other a little bit more. But I'll tell you out of the gate, I'm sort of leaning Sandhagen, and I'll tell you why after you do your breakdown.
Yeah, so this is another one where I'm hoping I don't get caught in another trap spot on this. But yeah, like I heavily do lean with Sandhagen just because in the sense of Vera, right? Vera was losing to Frankie. Sandhagen, I know MMA math doesn't work, but like Sandhagen literally like put Frankie right to bed. Even the Dominic Cruz fight, he was down on the scorecards. And now you can argue on the other end when you talk about Sandhagen against Song Yadong, where that fight was he was up on one judge, but it was pretty much a draw going into the fifth round before they stopped it. But that was a very, very competitive fight. And Song Yadong has some of the crispest boxing in the UFC right now. But the thing is, Song Yadong throws volume. Marlon Vera doesn't. Marlon Vera will probably drop the first two rounds. And in all these fights that he's winning, he's coming back and getting a KO. He's not coming back and rallying and winning a decision. So I just think Sandhagen's footwork and movement is going to be too much of them. I think if you're smart on this fight, the over 3.5 rounds is sitting at minus 210. It's a little chalky, but I think it's a good parlay piece. Just because if there is going to be a finish, it's probably going to be by Marlon, and it's probably going to be later in the fight. Because if anything, Sandhagen will take a beating. Sandhagen took a lot of punishment from Jan. He took a lot of punishment from Song Yadong too, right? Like this guy isn't the type of guy to go out. And with all due respect to Marlon Vera, he is somebody who's kind of on the up and up, but he is kind of beating age-old vets. The guys that Sandhagen's been fighting and not necessarily beating, but looking half decent against, have been like the top tier of the division. He looked good against the TJ fight. TJ just kind of out-grappled him down the stretch. He looked good in the Jan fight. Same thing. The grappling was just kind of an issue, and I don't foresee Vera I don't see Vera having a grappling advantage nor utilizing one in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're on the same side of this, I guess. Then I wasn't sure where you would lean and how you would lean, but I think Vera presents so much damage that with that style where he just cuts through you and sort of slowly lulls you into later into a fight where you're starting to gas a little bit. He starts to pour it on. He starts to just cut through you, right? Everything with him and why he's so good, it's all worth it. Everything he throws is going to land. Everything he throws is calculated, and it's all damage, man. But that being said, I'm on the side of Sandhagen with this one, man. I think he's the more well-rounded fighter, and although we know that Vera does have the submissions as well too, I think that Sandhagen just he poses so many problems. When he fought Song Yadong, the biggest takeaway for me at the end of that fight was he asked, and I can't remember who came in the ring and was doing the interview, but he said, "Did I do enough to win?" Whether it was Bisping or did I do enough to win? Do you really think I won that fight? Like he was bugged, like he had a fucking chip on his shoulder, like a healthy chip. Like did I do enough? Did I figure out the puzzle this time? He wants to become this perfect fighter where he runs a game plan that no one can touch. You saw him coming in on that almost pendulum type angle where he would come in and out, just like Dominic Cruz. He was running that pretty well in the last fight. He was actually also mixing in takedown shots just to confuse the stand up as well too. I just think he's the better fighter all around. I think that Vera had a potential opportunity to maybe get a shot at some point. It's just maybe not going to be now. Sandhagen, not a good matchup for him. And I actually even like this fight to go to the decision. I think it's like you said, if Vera does win, it's going to be late in the fight, or the mid-range, third round and on. But I actually like Sandhagen by decision. So I'm actually going to be looking at Sandhagen to end off any parlays, have Vera inside the distance as a hedge. That's already set up as a strategy. And then I'm going to actually have moneyline play separate, or not moneyline, sorry, a prop play where it's going to be Sandhagen by decision. I don't know what that line's currently sitting at right now, but that's what I'm looking at.
Sandhagen wins by decision right now, sitting at plus 130.
Plus 130. Yeah, I mean, I think although it's it's still it's a little chalky plus money if you want to say for a prop, but I just sort of think I just like it. Whether I make it my play officially or not, unless we find better props throughout this card, I just think that's what's going to happen. I think he's going to win by decision, and I think if you already have it offset with a parlay, if we find one, I just think it's sort of a win-win with that hedge there at the edge. So. Next fight on the card, we have Holly Holm against now Yana Santos, who back in the day, I'll tell you a quick little story, memory lane, it'll take 2 seconds. Back in 2012, when I was trying to make my way into the MMA media and more or less was a wannabe media member at that time, I had a friend online that was developing his own page and he's actually helping talent get over from overseas. He sent me a link to a girl's Facebook account It was Yana Kunitskaya. So Yana Kunitskaya, she actually was looking to come over to North America to start training over here a little bit, and actually wanted to get some interviews going and just get her name out online. This was back when, I mean, there was no Instagram. This is YouTube pretty much, and a little bit of Facebook. So a long time ago, and her career now, as we look at where it sort of played out, didn't really actually play out, I don't think, the way I thought back then, because she actually was a pretty touting prospect from overseas with her stand-up, and it just didn't really formulate. The stand-up's dangerous, the ground game got better, but all in all, Holly Holm is going to run through Yana Kunitskaya or Yana Santos. So right now, I'll start it off for you. Holly Holm, 14-6-0, minus 244. Best bet stamp bet could be had at bet 9-9. Yana Santos, 14-6-0, both same records. Plus 190 dog, bet 9-9, best bet stamp bet. This is really quick. I think Holly Holm wins everywhere. I think she wins on the feet. I think she wins on the cage. I think she wins on the ground. And Holly Holm is a hammer spot for me, probably likely going to be parlayed because the line is pretty chalky right now. Take it away.
Yeah, honestly, there isn't really much else to say. Like, you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's just Holly Holm is leaps and bounds better than Yana. I said I don't really see where Yana wins this fight. I do have trouble betting Holly Holm because the split decision against Kaylin Vieira cost me a pretty penny last time around. But that being said, she should have won that fight. So maybe this is the bounce back spot. As you said, it's like, where does Yana really propose a problem to Holly Holm where she's going to feel uncomfortable? Striking wise, Holly Holm will be the quicker, faster striker. It is in San Antonio, right? Like, this isn't an Apex card, so the opportunity for her to close the distance is relatively minimized just based on the fact that it's in a larger cage. She'll be able to land her jab, dance around, and she has shown to have good grappling. And even against Kaylin Vieira, right, she's able to control some of those positions against the cage. And Kaylin Vieira is big and strong, and Yana isn't. So, as you said, regardless where this fight goes, it's Holly all day. Probably Holly by decision, but I wouldn't get greedy on a prop here.
We're just going to add her in a parlay. That'll be the play for that if we find a parlay, and I think that's the first spot. So next fight on the card, we have a fight that sort of came together as another one fell apart last week. We did a nice solid piece with Mike Malott, Austin Lingo in a fight last week, or two cards ago. But now he comes in on short notice against Nate Landwehr. So now the line currently sitting, we have Nate Landwehr 16-4-0, and his line currently sitting at minus 270 against Austin Lingo, 9-1-0. Line at plus 220. Now those are Tapology lines because they don't have lines currently for them on BetStamp. So I would imagine that line's probably moved a little bit as people are looking at Austin Lingo. I'm going to take this one away to start off. I think that looking at Nate the Train's last fight, a fight that killed a lot of people, the fight that killed potentially the momentum of David Onama, the fight that killed potentially the whole Krause camp, the fight that killed a huge bet that potentially led to some pretty messed up stuff. But I think that whole situation was probably going to unfold the way it actually did eventually. Anyways, just a little side thing. Most people in MMA heads understand what I'm talking about. This David Onama fight was supposed to be the big fight, and David Onama was going to beat Nate Landwehr. Everybody was leaning Onama heavily favored, and Landwehr walked through everything he had and took as many shots as he could, even stood there recklessly when he had top position and backed up to stand out in the middle of the cage to fight. And Taylor into the crowd, turning his back and all this crazy stuff, but took so many shots and is willing to do it. Has some pretty solid stand-up too. That being said, going in against a guy like Austin Lingo, although I was fading him in his last matchup that he was going to have, I sort of maybe like him in the spot with his hands. And I think that the gap of time, him being away, although there was an injury involved, we just don't know really what he could have done in that time off and what the growth could have been. And I use as a point of reference, I talked with Mike a lot about this one, and I know, Mike's on the podcast now at times, but we've used him as a point of reference. He's a perfect example. Step away from the cage, come back, and you're a monster. You just don't know what you're going to get after that long. So I'm not saying necessarily hammer the plus 220 dog on Lingo, but I just don't think that this is necessarily a Nate Landwehr spot. I think that he's hittable, and I think Lingo presents power. Do I think he presents one punch knockout power? No, but he presents volume power. If he lands a combination on you, it's not a good day for you, and he presses forward nonstop. So this has potential to be fight of the night, that's for sure. I don't know if it goes the distance, and if it does, they're both going to be bloody and messy and hugging each other at the end. But I sort of lean Lingo just for the number value, but I'm not really like, I'll actually even take him as a pick just because. But there'll be no official play for me as far as podcast play on this one.
Yeah, I definitely like Nate in the spot. I think Lingo has kind of a fair bit to go. Like, he's a good fighter, as you said. There's been kind of a long layoff. I think this is definitely a type of fight that you could live bet it because, as you mentioned, Nate is very hittable. Lingo is fairly live in this fight. As I said, I think the line's wide, but I think the line's wide more based off the recency bias of the Onama fight that you were mentioning. But I think the first round's probably competitive. Lingo probably lands a fair bit of strikes, but the pace and pressure fighting Landwehr, it's like fighting a guy like Tim Elliott or like one of these guys that just kind of just brings that full on energy to you that, they need to get punched a couple times to get going, start that engine. I think that's kind of what you're going to get out of Nate Landwehr. And I think as the fight progresses, I think he's going to take over down the stretch. But I do agree with what you're saying. Value wise, plus 220 doesn't make any sense. Like, I'd probably market this fight like minus 145 for Landwehr. Like, he should be a favorite, but this is a little wide, so.
Yeah, I mean, and that rate there is the reason why a lot of people will jump on it, because I think the line, there is a little bit of a disparity in the line, but the reality is I think that he's hittable, and Lingo does press forward, so I just think it's a possibility of what could happen, and for that, I'm out. Next fight in the card, we have Andrea KGB Lee versus Macy Barber. Andrea 13-6-0, best bet stat, bet 2 plus 230 at Caesars, and Macy Barber, the favorite, minus 227. Best bet stat bet can be had at Coolbet. This is a tricky one, but the line is so wide and so ridiculous that lately with what's been happening in women's MMA, there's so many guys that cap things or do shows or break down fights to talk shit about it, women's MMA. But I'm not even talking shit here. It's just lately what's been happening is a lot of underdogs, a lot of flips on big lines. So that's where it legitimately is, potential stay off. Because when it goes to decision or when someone else just comes out of nowhere, like, Miss Hardy last week, congratulations to her. What a showing. You just don't know what you're going to get, man. And KGB Lee, although she hasn't looked great in her last couple of fights, she has solid stand-up. And she does present, some top heavy, good top game, and then she's damaging with her strikes. That being said, Macy Barber's looked great in her last couple of fights. She's been able to mix up the wrestling, mix up the striking as well too. And I think it's turned a corner. I don't know if it's just conditioning too, but she just looks, more solid, more athletic, and just I think there's a momentum thing with her. The line though is way too wide. I could see these two ladies fighting multiple times in one of those situations where it could go back and forth depending on circumstance. Macy Barber is going to be the side for me, but not a play at all, not a parlay piece, not anything. I'm not. I do not eat green eggs and ham. I do not. Sam, I am.
All I'm saying is there's 4 women's MMA fights on this card, and I think we can probably just make an overs parlay, and everything would be great. Things are gonna cash all day long. Yeah, like, I have to agree, man. Like, but as you said, there's no value there, right? Like, how are you gonna lay minus 210 on Macy Barber? She's young, she's inexperienced, and she's shown to have flaws in her game. That being said, Andrea Lee is a little bit older and not necessarily the greatest fighter in the UFC. She's 13-6, doesn't have the greatest fighter, and has looked questionable at times. So it's kind of just a greasy spot. Like Andrea Lee's 2 most recent wins was over Calvillo and Shevchenko. And other than that, she went on a 3-fight skid. So she hasn't been looking impressive as a late either. But as you said, I think this fight's going to be greasy. I think Macy Barber puts herself in positions where she can lose fights, and she gets kind of over aggressive. And from anybody from a technical standpoint can propose issues to her. Not somebody I would trust as minus 210. But as I said, like, you're probably going to get the over 2.5 at like minus 300, which is where Macy Barber's going to be fight day anyways. So if you're looking at this fight, I would just, like, AGB is fairly durable, and I don't think Macy Barber has a chance of putting her out in this fight. So.
Yeah, I think we're both on sort of the same side of things. And as far as, the way this could play out, it's just, the line's just ridiculous. So there's not really a play on it. We shall move on to another fight that I think a lot of people, this is, it could be that we're all leaning Manal Cop really heavy on this one, and it could be interesting. You never really know, but the amount of cancel bouts that this man's had and time away from the cage, I just don't know what I'm going to get from Alex Perez. So, sorry. Oh, I do have the line. So we have Alex Perez, 24-7-0. Best bet stamp bet plus 165 at cool bets. Manel Kopp, 18-6-0, minus 175. Best bet stamp bet can be had at DraftKings. This is a dangerous one, man. Alex Perez, he's been on the roster since 2017, Dana White Contender Series veteran. Solid fighter, well-rounded fighter, good stand-up, solid wrestling, and does present like all the attributes of what could be a high-level guy. But with the issues, and I don't even actually know the full issues of what's going on with him, but he's just been away from the cage for so long, and you could probably enlighten me. He's been in and out of the cage for so long, I just don't know what we're going to get from him. I don't know what level we're going to get from him. I think that's why the line's not completely away. Like if someone was normally off at this point, you'd see the line just, it'd be like really, really, really wide. You know, this guy has had so many canceled bouts, it's crazy. You know, he is that level. So you don't know what he's going to bring to the cage on this night. Manel Kopp on the other side, he's got his power and explosiveness. He's pretty calculated as a striker, but he does get away from his striking at times. And he's found himself in bad spots in moments, but he is on a 3-fight win streak. I think he is the side in this one. I think he would rightfully have to be the side, but he is not necessarily a parlay piece for me. It sort of scares me a little bit.
Imagine having 5 fights booked with Matt Schnell and never fighting Matt Schnell.
You like put that on your wall, like black that shit.
Like on the Tapology page, I literally on this laptop have to scroll down to see the amount of past canceled fights that he has before we get to a fight. And that fight has to be against Josier Formiga in 2020. Was the last time he won a fight. He did lost to Figueiredo and he lost to Pantoja. He lost both those fights in the first round. And I just don't think Perez is the fighter that we think he is. I think he spent way too much time away from the cage. I think a couple of these fights have been done or have been canceled because of weight misses. I don't recall what the other ones were. There's injuries.
Yeah, I think
nonetheless.
it was.
And to be honest, I think Manel K probably KOs him and KOs him early. I think that Perez is probably going to try and grapple because of the sense that Cape is going to be the much better striker on the feet. And Cape is so good with these flying knees and these crazy strikes that I think he's going to be able to KO him. I think the issue we have with Manel Cape is the fact that he doesn't throw volume. Not that he's not good. It's just he lets fights kind of get away from him. Coming off from fighting in Ryzen and stuff like that, like, and probably just a lower level of competition, he was able to let time escape him and then come out and just land these big bombs. Or these high level competition now that he's in the UFC, I feel like he's kind of learning to adapt into it. He's only 29 years old, has a crazy skill set. Sorry. Yeah, man, I think he gets him out of here. I think it's under 1.5. I think he probably KOs him in the first.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're gonna try to find value on it, then I guess that's the way to do it, right? Go straight to a prop then. I still think that Perez could be at that level, but if it is weight misses, I knew that there was a couple weight misses, but I thought there was something else underlying. But if it's just weight misses, maybe look at the scales. If he has issue with weight cuts, then that's how you get knocked out. And Kopp does present that as an issue, so maybe that is a prop that we look at. It's not that I was so flip-floppy on it. I think Perez presents a huge problem. I just don't think it's a parlay piece. I just think that Perez could do something in a fight where, you know, and Kopp has shown it where he can let things sort of get away with the low volume. But I don't know. We'll take a look at the end of this and see where we can find some props, but that may be a play. Okay, next fight on the card, we have Chidi Njokuani coming in at 22-8-0, coming in at the favorite right now, minus 165. Best bet stand bet could be had at DraftKings. Albert Duraev coming in at 15-4-0. Best bet stand bet could be had, dog money plus 150 at Coolbet. And this is one of the few times that we see this in a couple of weeks that you'll see where a line starts one way and completely flips. Njokuani being the dog initially when this line opened, now is the favorite, but still not too far away from you for you to not jump on a money line play, if not look at something on this one. So,
well, I hate Joaquin Buckley, and if you lose to Joaquin Buckley, I can automatically never trust you again in my life. But yeah, I just think we're starting to see that Duraev isn't quite the fighter that came in off the regional scene. On the regional scene, he held 2 belts. Was very accomplished. I think it was M1 Global. Don't quote me on that. But in like actually a reputable like regional scene. And I just think that like I don't want to be the one to say there was like juicing or whatever, but like he doesn't show the same durability he showed on the regional scene. He doesn't show the same toughness. He kind of gets not punch drunk, but like a little bit reckless. His wrestling isn't as good, and his cardio seems to suffer a fair bit more than it once did. So I think this is probably a bad matchup for him with Chitty. Chitty's one of these guys that's, he's a little bit later in his career, but almost having like a resurgence. And his striking's on point. He has shown pretty good takedown defense in the past, although whenever he came into the UFC, it was something you're questionable about. But now, he seems to be that he's making these improvements. And I think this is going to end up being a kickboxing fight. And honestly, if Buckley could do it, Chitty's going to be able to do it a lot better.
I would have to 100% agree, and obviously the Sharks, and everybody else does as well too. But Vegas didn't, and everybody's going to probably benefit. I think the fight. If you look at Chidi and Jaquani in a fight against RoboCop, I mean, you could throw the house at RoboCop in most cases, and he's not going to go to sleep. And I think Chidi did at points. He just eventually gets caught. That's just going to happen. I think in this matchup, it's a horrible matchup for Duraev. I think, like you're saying, if Joaquin Buckley could do it, then Chidi and Jaquani could do it. The level of the strength of schedule isn't even close to the same. I think he's going to be able to at least get up from bottom if he gets taken down even once. And once he does that, I think it's only once he gets taken down. And I think he's going to be able to work it off the cage if he needs to. Use his length. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage. He's got a 4-inch height advantage. That doesn't bode well for wrestlers at times if they have if the taller person has a good cage defense. So if you're looking at Chidi and Jaquani, I think he rides in this one. I think he's able to run good takedown defense. I think he's going to just use that 5-inch reach advantage and be able to lay at length pretty regularly against Albert Duraev. So Chidi and Jaquani, definitely the play here. Maybe a money line play of the week. Okay, next fight on the card. Okay, next fight on the card, we have Daniel Pineda coming in at 27-14-0 against Tucker Lutz, 12-2-0. Right now, Pineda can be had dog money, best bet stamp bet, plus 235 at DraftKings. Tucker Lutz, the favorites, minus 250, best bet stamp bet can be had at CoolBet. I'm going to let you take this one away too. This line's pretty wide, but honestly, I could see it actually about minus 200 for Tucker Lutz. I'm leaning Tucker Lutz in this one. I'll go through my reasons why, but I have a feeling you have pretty much the same reasons as me. Take it away.
I disagree, man. I like Daniel Pineda a lot in this spot.
No.
I think that because he's coming in, man, he's one of these fighters, man, that we haven't seen too much recently. He had that KO loss to Cub Swanson, kind of took some time away. I know he's dealing with some sort of injuries, but he's one of these guys, man. If you watch what Pat Sabatini did to Tucker Lutz, he was able to grapple him and control him. Now, with Daniel Pineda, we saw against the fight in Cub Swanson, he decided that he wanted to kind of brawl in it. But that's not his style, man. Like, the guy's the type of guy that he gets you down and he can just beat you up, and he's always threatening for submission. So I think he's going to be able to get Tucker Lutz down. I think the experience is far more on his side. And I think this line is wide as all hell.
Wow. Okay. You got me. Not that I was going to make him a play at all, but I thought Tucker Lutz was just definitely the side based on what I saw. But you got me. You always get me thinking. That's a good thing, I guess. But Tucker Lutz for me, I just think that although Pineda does present really dangerous striking, and I think now you have me even more scared the way you sort of set that up. Now I'm just visualizing him coming in with the knockout. But I think Lutz, although has shown a takedown deficiency as far as defense, can mix in some takedowns himself and run some clean boxing to victory. And I just think he's going to be the side in this. I think I'm not fully sold on Pineda yet. It's more, it would be, I guess, a show me spot, especially because you got me fading myself now. But so I guess we'll just sort of leave it alone. I wasn't going to run it as a play anyways, but I think Pineda, this is a show me thing. He's been away for a little bit of time. We'll see what happens. But I don't know, man. I think that Lutz is going to be able to run his boxing and get some takedowns, and that's going to be the game. But we shall see.
If anything, if you are on the Tucker Lutz side, I think the first round is going to be very competitive. The one thing with Pineda that worries me about, like, kind of highlighting him as a dog of the week is the fact that his cardio has been known to kind of fall off a cliff, and some of his fights have been extended, where Lutz seems to have very good cardio. So although I like Pineda, I do have to highlight the fact that I like Pineda early. If this fight goes, over 1.5, second, third round, then I think it gets a little bit dicier, because I think that's where Lutz will really start taking over. But as I said, you're on the Lutz side, man. I feel like you'll get a better line other than the minus 250 or whatever he is right now.
I thought about parlaying fight doesn't go, but those props have been sort of bucking us a bit. So I'm just going to lay off that. I want to pick a solid couple people as a parlay and see what we can do with it. It worked out last week, so we'll continue with it. So next fight on the card, we have Steven Peterson, 19-10-0, coming in against Lucas Alexander, 7-3-0. Peterson right now, best bet stamp bet could be had -164 at Cool Bets, and Lucas Alexander, the dog, +145 at Cool Bet. Man, there's not really much you can say about this other than a Peterson fight is always one that's so hard to bet on. The guy is just like damage, chaos, pressure, hell. He comes forward and, either his opponent's going to break or his opponent's going to use it against him and finish him or just school on him. So it's definitely an interesting one. Peterson under the pressure. I don't know if Lucas Alexander, although he is a better dynamic, explosive striker, I don't know if he's going to be able to run off the back foot for long. I sort of like Peterson in this spot. But I always like him as the dog. A guy like him, I like him as a dog. I like him to be able to sort of break somebody and then be like, yeah, dog money on it. Because he's, they land right there in the third round or whatever it is. But for me, there's not too much of a breakdown in this one. I think that Alexander, although he maybe, keep this off the ground if Peterson wants to try to drag it down there, but Peterson wants to stay on the feet. Alexander wants to be there too. And I just don't know how this plays out if they fight. So it could go back and forth. And for me, it's a stay off, a clear stay off.
Yeah, I like Pearson in the spot, man. But like I said, I think violence is the way to go on this one. The line kind of doesn't reflect that. A lot of people, especially in the Tapology votes, seem to have this going to a decision. But I think both these guys are going to meet in the middle and throw bombs. I have a lot of trouble trusting people with Superman tattoos. That's why I always fade Ryan Spann. And this guy's got a giant one on his chest. It throws me off. It's just like a bad career choice. I just don't understand how he got to this point in his life. But to the point of this, I feel like these guys are just gonna throw, man. And I think somebody's gonna go to sleep. And as you said, Peterson's always nice as a dog price because he's very grindy in his fights, right? He keeps every single fight close. Yeah. But that's only nice when you're getting the plus money on that. Yeah. He doesn't look good in all of his fights. He just finds a way to win a lot of them. It's usually by
I don't want to sweat chalk.
And you're going to sweat this fight.
Yeah.
It's going to be fucking close.
I don't want to sweat chalk. If it's chaos and I'm sitting on plus money, I'm happy sitting there with my dynamite. But I'm not sweating chalk. Yeah. But the Superman tattoo, that's a wrinkle, buddy. That's a good one. Fade the Superman tattoo. The fight doesn't go the distance. What's that sitting at currently right now?
Let's take a look, see if we got a line. It is early in the week, so
I won't parlay one, but if we get a quality line on it, let's be sharp. We hit some sharp subs last week and everything else. Let's do this if it's there.
It's sitting at plus 105. It's like a pick'em price.
We'll take a look at the number of lines that we have, and if it's something that we might want to take a shot at, we will. Next fight on the card, we have Trevin Giles coming in 15-4-0 against Preston Parsons 10-3-0. Best bet stamp bet can be had for Trevin Giles. Is currently sitting. I don't have the lines. What are the lines currently sitting at?
Minus 130 for Giles and 1 6.
Minus 130.
Yeah, no, they moved again. Minus 105 for Giles, minus 115 for Parsons.
Okay. Next fight in the card, we have Trevin Giles 15-4-0 coming in at minus 105 versus Preston Parsons 10-3-0 coming in at minus 115. Virtually a pick'em. I think this line maybe should be a little bit wider. And here's why. So for me, Trevin Giles, although he does have clean stand-up, for me, his takedown defense, it's there. But if he gets to the ground and he gets into a situation where his opponent is in top position, he sort of gives up control for a little bit of time, right? So I think that this is where it's going to be a huge problem in this line. I think that I'm down to even make Preston Parsons potentially a play. I think we're going to have a rinse and repeat of takedowns. I think that I don't need to break down each guy. Trevin Giles just actually had a grappling match against Mike Malott. And Malott, high-level grappler, didn't submit him, so I'll give it to him on that. But he controlled him, right? For most of that fight, for most of that match, he controlled him. And I think that you're going to see a lot of that from Preston Parsons as well, too. I think on the feet, obviously, Giles can present a little bit of an issue with his power, but I think that Parsons is his side here. I think the takedowns early and often. I'm interested to see what the line is on the Preston Parsons takedowns, if it's actually out there for anything, because maybe Vegas fucks it up. Take a look at that if we can see that later in the week. But Preston Parsons aside here for me, and I even like that as a money line play. I'm in on that one because I think he's going to get taken down a lot. I see that his takedown defense is solid, but I think he's going to get taken down by Preston Parsons and at least once each round. So that's 3 takedowns and get controlled for at least half of the round.
My issue with that is that Kosi wasn't really able to take down Giles. And that's where I'm like, I agree with you. I think that if he can get taken, because here's the thing with Kevin Giles, right? He's a fighter that is good whenever he shows up, and he's a fighter that's awful when he doesn't. Like that Kosi fight I'm referring to, this is good and bad in the sense that, yeah, like he was able to stuff the takedowns, they look good against a high level wrestler. But he was also in an element where he could have outboxed the holy shit out of Kosi and did nothing for 15 minutes. So I like it. Like I say aside with Giles in the sense that if he shows up, I think he wins this fight probably 7 out of 10 times. And if he doesn't show up, he loses it 10 out of 10 times, right? He's one of these fighters that I struggle to put money on because you just don't really know what you're getting whenever he walks into the cage. So for me, this fight's a complete stay off. I probably would take an over in this fight if I was going to touch anything, but I think with Preston, we still have a lot to learn. And I think with Giles, as I said, it's a coin flip, which Giles actually shows up.
So you're trying to take me back from the edge. Is this the one where
No, man. This is Callum's money line play.
Is this where I stand my ground? What I'll be
You're
interested
probably right.
And where I could get some decent money on a scenario is Preston Parsons takedowns, whatever the takedown prop variation could be, because then I'm not looking at the finish and how the fight ends. You're tailoring me back from my, maybe jumping off a cliff a little bit, but then I'm still going to hold my ground and maybe look at some takedowns. I think he does get some takedowns on Giles, and when we look at that as a play, I'll try to find that and put that out as a play later in the week. Next fight in the card, we have this one's. I'm excited for this one. This is gonna be a good one. CJ Vergara, 10-4-1, coming up against Daniel Da Silva, 11-4-0. I feel like they're just saying, hey, CJ, here you go, bud. We put you in some fights. You showed some good standing in the UFC, and here's a fight for you. Next fight in the card, we have CJ Vergara coming in 10-4-1, minus 275 favorite, coming up against Daniel Da Silva. The man can't catch a win, 11-4-0, plus 210 dog. So Da Silva, not a good showing in the UFC, been finished in some of his fights, that's not looking good. And Vergara also has really been underestimated at times, but also I think he's not playing up to what his full potential is at times too. But for this one, I'll let you take it away as far as what you think this is going to be. I know the line's a little bit wide. We all know how this fight probably ends, but what's your plan?
Yeah, well, it's like you said, like the line's wide. Like I think Daniel's due for a win, but is this really the fight?
No.
Probably not. Like, and that's where things get dicey, right? The thing about this fight is that Daniel's live as shit in the first, and it's just a matter of he can do anything about it, right? Like they're so all over this fight. If you look at the under 1.5, it's at minus 185. It almost makes you want to take the over because if Daniel comes in, CJ Vergara isn't known really as a finisher. He's got crisp boxing, good fighter, but like it's not like he's coming out here just starching dudes. It's all based on the fact that Daniel blows his load in the first round. So I like CJ in this fight, like most people do. But this is, once again, man, like it's just this card's filled with wide lines that don't make a lot of sense because CJ is a guy that can give up his back. If Daniel gets on it, like that's it, man. Like this is game over. So the only thing I like in this fight is I like Daniel to win in the first round because it's value at that point. But I'm just saying I would suggest staying a little bit away from this one. Like, do not lay the minus 300. And once again, if you do, like, we're talking about live betting a lot on this card. But you get wide lines, live betting is the way to take it. After the first round, if it gets extended, you are not going to get minus 275 on CJ. You are going to get a better line for sure.
Yeah, I think that's one way to look at it. The live bet was a note, but then also if you look at him outwork him in the first round, that's literally what I have here. I'll show you on the paper if you can actually see it. Live bet. That's all fucking misty. But But yeah, I know that really is it, right? He's got that one round of push, and that's it. Whether it's he's all in on his grappling attempts, all in on his striking, and then he falls right off a cliff. Vergara on the flip side of it, I can see him even grinding a long decision now because I don't know, like he could probably put him away later in the fight, but I could even see CJ just grinding him like a top position. Then De Silva gets back to his feet, huffing gas. Vergara lands on him, rinse and repeat. We just cycle all the way through. But I mean, he could finish it late, so decision might be a little bit too pinpoint. I do like your over. I think it is gonna. I think that is a play on it, right? And if you do want to play it two ways, go to Silva first round and then go play the over as your safe bet, or as the safer the other side of it. Sorry. But yeah, man, I think Vergara's just found himself in wars back and forth. He needs to be in the pocket running his boxing. I think he needs to stay away from doing that in the first round. And he needs to run some distance, circle out, use some good footwork, and just really let De Silva blow his load, like you're saying. Live bets to play. I think that's something we'll put out as a suggestion this week for our live bet play of the week. You're up for that? Because I think we both
Yeah, I like it,
that, right? I think that's the live bet.
Sorry, my mic is muted.
Okay, next fight on the card we had Manuel Torres 13-2-0 coming up against Trey Ogden 16-5-0. Currently the line's sitting at Manuel Torres favored -145 best bet stamp bet could be had at B-Win. Trey Ogden 16-5-0 plus 140 dog best bet stamp bet could be had at Coolbet. I'm gonna let you take this one away. We know Trey Ogden, the grappler, Torres a little bit more well-rounded, but I mean it's the striking. That's what he does. We haven't seen him in a little bit. What's your side in this one? Take it away.
Yeah, like I lean Torres, but as we get to the bottom of this card, we get a little bit more sketchy. And the thing with Trey Ogden is if he's able to get his grappling going, this is a fight where he'll be able to take advantage of it, right? On the flip side, he hasn't shown too well. Like he's coming off the split decision loss to Jordan Levitt, where a lot of people thought he won that fight. For me, it was fairly hard to score. I find these higher level grappling fights a little harder to see really who's getting the edge in a sense. But he wasn't able to get his grappling going too heavy in that fight. I think with Torres, as you said, like he needs to be able to stay on the feet. I see a Torres KO coming. I think there's a reason why they set up this fight. I think they want Torres to succeed. But I said it's definitely low level and it's definitely a show me spot. So
yeah, I think Manuel Torres presents a lot of problems for Trey Ogden. I think that he's just damaged, right? He has like more of a Muay Thai style of things. Everything has to be damaged. Everything is calculated that lands. It's meant to hurt, right? And I think that even being able to use a little bit of length, maybe able, like he doesn't necessarily have a reach advantage, but just with his length and his arms, being able to actually stay out of some takedown situations off defense might work for him. That being said, Trey Ogden does shoot early often and will be. I don't think he's going to want to stay on the feet too long with Torres, although he does have some decent stand up himself. But I'm on the Torres side of this. I think Torres does get him out of there at some point, and I think that he just it's good to see him back. He looked good against Frank Camacho, obviously in his KO in his last fight. It's been some time since he's been back. I just think he's going to pick up where he left off. Okay, next fight on the card, we have Vinicius Salvador, 14-4-0. Best bet stamp bet could be had plus 100 at Coolbet. We have Victor Altamirano, 11-2-0, minus 107 best bet stamp bets we had at Pinnacle. Man, I don't know what to do with Victor Altamirano. Although the guy does seem to be at the level, I'm back and forth on this one, although I did enjoy watching tape on both these guys. I'll let you take this one away. I have a couple notes to break down afterwards.
Yeah, well, I kind of agree with what you're saying, man. Like Victor Altamirano, it's one of those guys that we haven't really seen too much out of him that we want to see. He kind of tends to get hurt in his fights from everything I can see with a little bit of UFC experience and the regional scene experience. Salvador, as noted by everybody, has fought an absolute dog shit level of regional competition. He came in there on the Contender Series against Shannon Ross, and he was a fairly decent sized underdog in that fight, if I remember correctly as well. And he put on an absolute clinic. I think Salvador is going to be hesitant in this fight. I think Altamirano is going to be hesitant in this fight, and he's going to let Salvador kind of take over. And I think Salvador will probably end up getting the KO at some point in this fight. But this fight to me screams whoever has their foot going forward is probably going to be winning this fight. I think both guys kind of have that bite the mouthpiece mentality can go. And it's just really who's pushing the pace that I think it's going to get this one done.
Yeah, man. I think the idea first, I started out of the gate with Victor Altamirano. I just don't know how to, pinpoint him. But both guys match up pretty well. I mean, both as far as the way Salvador runs his game plan, he runs his length a little bit better, I think. But at the same time, I think Altamirano is obviously the technical striker, the more technical striker. I think he's a little more well-rounded. I think I like the edge with him. Obviously, I think that I'll go with the favorite on this one just because it's close to it's actually, I mean, I pretty much had to pick him, you probably want to go plus 100. But for me, I just think Altamirano probably gets it done by mixing in some of the wrestling and then also running some more technical striking, landing a little bit more volume. I think that's going to be the play. And for me, it's really a stay off anyways. Because watching tape with them, you're trying to really, as much as you're watching to see what they can do, both of them, you're trying to see where one guy can exploit the other. And I just don't know if I found a crazy spot where one guy's going to really edge out the other one so hard for me to make a pick solidly. So I'll go with Victor Altamirano, but not a solid play for me. Next fight on the card, we have Tamaris Vidal, 7-1-0. Best bets bet can be had plus 118 at FanDuel. And we have Haley Cohen coming in 7-2-0. Best bet stamp bet. She is the favorite minus 120 at Pinnacle. This is, man, I actually sort of have a take on this one. It's the first fight of the night. It's women's MMA, and it's not just recency bias. It's sort of the problem that Vidal will present. If you look at this fight, Haley Cohen, she's a decent, she's a pretty solid kickboxer. Good in her scrambles, but really she's gonna really depend on athleticism and pushing this fight a little bit later and start to land a little more volume later in the fight. Vidal brings chaos, right? And I think that if this comes to a scramble, Vidal's going to likely end up top. If she gets in close, she's going to be able to take Cohen down as well too, and maybe even flip a situation where Cohen's trying to take her down and get on top as well too. For me, I just see that Vidal likely lands some big power on the feet. Obviously we faded her pretty hard. I know that she came in with a quick knockout in the last fight, but she does present this sort of, I don't want to say sloppier, but she sort of throws rocks out on a string, and if they land, it's not a good night for anybody. So. I don't know, man. I think that Vidal rides in this one, to be honest. I think she's going to start to land big shots on Cohen and actually, edge out the favorite. I'm not going to run a play on it, but I just feel that this is not a good fight for Cohen. I think that Vidal's going to come and do some damage in this one. So I'm on the Vidal side of this one, but not making a play. What do you think?
Over 2.5. minus 200. Yeah, dude, I don't know, man. Like, this is, I don't want to sit here and say I don't know because this is what we do, but like, it's kind of like, this is low level, man. Like, it's low level and it's women's MMA, and I'm just like thinking the judges are not even going to be like paying attention to what's going on in this one. Like, I think Vidal probably has the edge. I've seen a lot of people take the Cohen side. The line's moved a lot in Cohen's direction. A lot of people think that Vidal is just one of these people that doesn't really deserve the hype that she's getting. I don't know, man. Like, split decision prob. Like, I think it's close. I think their grappling kind of out cancels each other out. Striking wise, Vidal's throwing like some spinning shit. Like, she's kind of crazy with the way she throws her strikes. And as you said, like, Cohen, if she pushes the pressure, though, that's where she wins this fight. It's just, can she leave the dance enough? Does she carry that power or the athleticism that's really going to make Vidal kind of stay on the back foot, or is Vidal going to be able to be the one that's going to be able to catch up? So I'll agree with you. I think Vidal's by the side. Lots of people out there have pushed the line to disagree with us. So, maybe we'll be the sharps on this one.
Let it go all the way to the end. I'm good with it. Just for me, I think that if Cohen presses and presses, she's just going to get hit. She's going to leave herself open to get hit. And I'm not giving Vidal a great credit. I just think she's going to get hit. And I think that she's already even probably thinking about it, right? That's got to be in your head. This is someone who's unpredictable, sort of throwing punches that aren't necessarily technical, and just landing big rocks from different places. So for me, it's got to be on her mind. So I just think that if this line does get wider, it may not be a play, but I'll be playing it. Let's go through the picks on the night. We're both on Corey Sandhagen. He will be the top of a parlay, even if it's a two-piece with Holly Holm. I'm down for it. And then I will have Potentially, Corey Sandhagen by decision as a play. By the end of this, we may have that we'll hold on deck right now. We'll put a pin in it for potentially a prop play this week. So we'll go Corey Sandhagen, Holly Holm so far as a prop play, and that's what we have as we go down the card. Yes?
I like it.
Austin Lingo, Nate Landwehr, no play. Macy Barber, Andrea Lee, no play. Manel Kopp. Manel Kopp, round 1 and 2.
I like it. Yep.
What's the line on that?
Manel Cup, Alex Perez, Cup by KO, Cup in round 1 plus 250, Cup in round 2 plus 575. Cup by round 1 KO, which I really don't think would be a submission, is plus 550, and plus round 2 or a Cup KO round 2 is plus 850.
Okay. So, I mean, there's different variations. You could look at that, though. But I think what we'll do is when we put the play out by the end of the week, depending on what the line is at Manel Kopp, round 1, 2, whether it's by KO or whatever, depending on what book we look at, just having him win in those 2 rounds will be a sort of safe, proppy situation if he does do what you said he will. Next, we have Chidi Njokuani. I think that's going to be our money line play of the week. We'll run him at minus 165. The sharps are on it, and although the line's gotten away from us a bit, I think we'll jump on it now officially as we put this out tomorrow. Minus 165, Chidi Njokuani. I think he just rides on Duraev and calls it a night. Everybody's having the issue with Tapology, and it's lovely ads, so we'll just wait 1 second. And then next from there, we have Perez, Lutz. We're going to stay off. Peterson, Lucas Alexander. That was one you were thinking of maybe fight doesn't go the distance at plus 105. Do you think that's worthy as making it a sharp play of the week?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so we'll add that to the roster. So we have Manel Kopp round 1 and 2. We have Holly Holm and Corey Sandhagen combined in a parlay so far. And we have Chidi Njokuani as the money line play of the week. And then it was Steven Peterson and Lucas Almeida's fight doesn't go the distance at plus 105.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got fumbled through that one, but I'll clean that up. Then we have Trevin Giles, Preston Parsons. No play on that one. I think I might want to look at takedowns for Parsons. We'll see what the takedown prop is, and I will put that out by later in the week. CJ Bagara against Daniel Da Silva. The over, what was the line sitting at again?
Plus 188.
How do you feel about that one? Do you like that one better than the fight doesn't go?
Well, you're getting plus money on it. Fight doesn't go as minus 400.
It's great that we're getting plus money on it, but which one do you think happens at a higher clip? The over on that fight or the finish on the other one? And we're going to pick one of those as the play. Either Peterson doesn't go the distance or Vergara carries it over 1.5.
Peterson doesn't go the distance.
Okay, so that'll be our over-under play of the week. And then the other one we're looking at is maybe Tamaris Vidal. And honestly, man, when I see them match up on the scales, when I see where the line is at the end of the week, I get all of your hesitance. But if we see some things come together on this, we see them match up, and Vidal looks like she's just a monster, and the line is there. We'll see. I hope some people hammer Cole, but we'll leave it there. I think we found some good spots this week. For Nick Eagle, I'm Callum McGregor. We'd like to break down tape. We'd like to try to line your pockets while lining ours. We need to line ours more. Although we did pretty good last week, let's do better this week. So although we sort of hashed out some of the plays right now, there's some people missing out on some of these lines that we're putting out, right? So it's great that you're getting lines and I put them out later in the week on Instagram or Twitter. But the reality of the fact is you're missing it early in the week when the line's a little bit better. So jump on it now, please. We will leave it there. And Rafi, what do we do up in Canada?
These motherfuckers from Canada. Sit. What they doing in Canada? I don't know.